Yes, looks like I'm live. Let me put some light on the subject here. There we go. All right. So, today we're going to talk about why you're procrastinating, why you're stuck in a matrix, and what you can do, hi Kira, to get out of that matrix. Why you're procrastinating, why you're stuck in the matrix, and what you can do to get out of that matrix. Because I'm telling you, you don't need another training. Most of you, some of you do. You don't need most of what you think you need. And there we go. That's so sweet. What you guys don't know is that I've got this set up on YouTube and on Facebook. And so I've got a phone here and I've got my camera or my laptop here. I feel pretty fancy. I feel pretty slick and high tech. So I'm feeling good about myself. And as a result, I want to share with you some of the insights that I'm learning and have learned over the years. Chief among those is that, wait for it, we actually, hey Big Mike, we actually need so much less information than we think we need, okay? I was at a mastermind over the weekend. And it was not a lightweight mastermind. It was a very, very high-level affair. And I don't say that to brag. I really don't. I say that because I want you to know one of the main things I took away from this mastermind. So one of the main things I took away was from Peter Voog, who is a beast. And he was telling us one of the differences, the primary differences between the thought process of people who are in the 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure, 10-figure range and the people who are stuck in the 6-figure range is that the shift is this. The shift is that when you're still at those lower sort of levels of success and achievement, you tend to think that you need more information. The people at the higher levels understand that one good idea, one good piece of information, one good tool, tip, tactic, training, and then you go implement is a far more powerful way to do things. And so that really hit home for me. That really punched me in the gut. Because I know that I've been guilty of that in the past, of thinking I needed one more answer, one more piece of information. Now, you hear a lot of talk about, just get out there and take imperfect action, fail forward faster, fail your way to success. All of this kind of thought process, all of these kind of thinking, or things rather, and here's what can happen. Because we hear it so much, we can tune it out. One of the big breakthroughs I had over the weekend was a reminder to apply critical thinking. Now, most of us don't want to do this. It takes energy, it takes time, it takes thought. Applying critical thinking doesn't feel like a progress-based activity, but let me tell you how it is a progress-based activity. So when you're applying critical thinking, you are doing a little bit of stopping and critical thinking ahead of time so that you don't do a lot of something that wastes your time. Let me say that again. The way that critical thinking is a progress-based activity is because you do a little of it up front in order to save yourself spending a lot of time doing things you don't need to do. Now, another thing that happens when we hear things over and over again is our mind really, because we don't apply critical thinking, our mind doesn't really differentiate between good advice and bad advice, in a sense, right? And it's not so much advice, I suppose, but more like cliches and platitudes. There's a saying that the reason things become cliches is because they have value in them. And so they get used over and over again. This idea that you don't need more information, you need to take action, is such a thing. It's the kind of thing that is so important that everybody says it and shares it and talks about it. Hey, Bob. Hey, Jeanette. Larry S. Cockrell, thanks for jumping in. Everybody shares it and talks about it, but the problem is we are on information overload. And so, because we're on information overload, we don't apply the critical thinking filters to block out the stuff we don't need to hear and let in the stuff we do want to hear that can serve us. And then we don't take action because we're bombarded. We have too much in our heads. We got too much in our brain. Miles Davis famously said, man, I'm trying to get less things to think about. That was why he was able to be such a great musician, a great improviser, a great saxophone player, was because he was focused on getting less things to think about. Action Jackson. That's right, Bob. Action Jackson, baby. It's so easy to get paralyzed by information. Now, for God's sakes, track this. It's so easy to get paralyzed by information and not even know it's happening. That's the part nobody talks about. It's so easy to get paralyzed by too much input of information, but not even realize that's what's happening. You spend all this time sort of just dealing with the information that's coming to you. And notice I said dealing. I didn't say acting on. I didn't say analyzing. I didn't say applying critical thinking to. I said dealing with it, because that's what it's like. It's like you're the one, you're like a warrior, and you're one lone warrior, and the amount of information that's coming at you is like a whole army, and you're just standing there with your sword going, well, I know I'm going to die, but I'm going to hack away until I do. It's not strategic. It's not thoughtful. It's not effective. The thing is that you don't ever want to find yourself, you don't want to allow yourself to get to that point where you're one warrior against a whole army in the first place. How do we avoid that? We avoid that counterintuitively by letting go. Counterintuitively, we avoid that whole sensation of information overload by letting go. Letting go. Give ourselves a half a day. Give yourself an hour. Just let go, and then clear your head and focus. Step back in the game. Get back on the field of play with a plan. It is better to have a bad plan that you're not stuck second guessing and learn what's bad and good about the plan through action than it is to think it to death, to really plot it all out to perfection and then try to execute. Because, well, there's two reasons. One is you'll never execute. It'll never happen. Okay? So the first thing is you'll never execute if you do that. The second thing is so many generals have had, through history, have had great quotes about the importance of planning and its ultimate irrelevance once battle is met. Right? I don't remember any of those quotes precisely, but the idea is, of course you make a plan, but you understand that once the armies clash, the plan's going to go straight to hell, and yet there's still value in making it. What that means to me is don't worry about the plan being perfect, because everything's going to change when you get on the field of play anyway. You've got to spend more time on the field of play. You've got to spend more time thinking on your feet. You've got to spend more time adapting in the flow, improvising in the flow, and overcoming in the flow. I cannot stress this enough. I cannot be emphatic enough about this. Bad plans are great learning opportunities. Yeah. Well, so are good plans. Thomas. But I just can't stress this enough, you guys. Everybody wants to overthink everything all the time. And if I could have one positive effect on you, it would be to get you to stop that. So I told you earlier I was at a very high-level mastermind over the weekend, And I got to jump in the hot seat, even though I already had gotten clear and I've gotten the next step and I'd gotten the answer to my questions. So I jumped in the hot seat because I wanted to participate. And and I said to Peter and Mark, the guys running the event, I want to do the hot seat, but I'm pretty sure I have my answer anyway. And Peter looked at me and said, then why are you doing the hot seat? Why are you doing it? And I said, well, because I didn't want to miss anything. And that's when he said, let me share something with all of you guys. The primary difference in thinking between the people that are at the 6-figure level, which, by the way, 6 figures is just getting by, right? You're not thriving in what you do at that level. Not like you can be. He said the difference between people who stay at that, that level and the ones that really rise above it is that the people at the lower level think there's always more they need to be learning. Always more learning. They're not taking enough action. Whereas the 7, 8, 9-figure people will get one thing and act on it like crazy. Come back, get another thing, act on it like crazy. Come back, get another thing, act on it like crazy. So what's the common thread there? It's action, action, action. And guess what? They're not executing perfectly either. They're learning as they go. So that was my big lesson. That was my big takeaway. I got the strategy I wanted. I got the things that were going to move me. It doesn't matter, Alan. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. Alan says 6-figure turnover or 6-figure profits. Not relevant here. The point is the shift in thinking into taking action will get you higher. That's the point. So I had been given the strategy. I knew the game plan. And I wanted to jump in there anyway, literally just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I got called out in front of the whole group. Not in a bad way, but the point is, if it was in a bad way, that would have been fine too. The point is, more information will never replace action. You'll learn more through action than through information. Now, you need to have access to good information as well, but you don't stay there like the lab rat who's drinking the cocaine water, right? You've probably seen that image where he just drinks and drinks and drinks till he dies. Well, that's going to be you too if you don't get your ass on the field and play the game. You've got to take action on what you learned. And the likelihood is that what you need really is just a little clarity, just a little direction, just a little push. That's most likely what you need. Maybe 1 or 2 new ideas, right? New ways of thinking, strategies, whatever. But then it's about action. It's about implementing. It's about looking at what happened and learning from it, right? And moving forward that way. Alan says, I get the point, just thought if 6-figure profit and they barely getting started, I got lots of catching up to do. You do have lots of catching up to do, my brother, and I'm here to help you whenever you're ready. But you know that already. So, this is my lesson for you today. Hey, Ethan, thanks for joining in. Let me just wave at Ethan there. Come on, send the wave. Oh, for Pete's sakes. There we go. This is my lesson for you guys today. This is my message for you today. And it's a message you've heard before. Hey, Martin. So I really want you to hear it. Don't just file this as another guy saying that message. Really understand. You are probably doing some sort of horrible reverse Pareto principle where you're spending 80% of your time thinking and learning and in consuming and not acting. You're probably spending 20% of your time acting. You need to flip that around. You need to take bold fucking action. Learn as you go. Hey, Eileen. And then go back to the well only occasionally and only strategically. Let's wave at Eileen there. To get new strategies. So it's act 80% of the time, new information 20% of the time, right? Yeah. And Thomas says, what many need, a little confidence and the assurance that the results of action will always be better than the results of inaction. Yes, Thomas, you're right. And that's a weird catch-22 there, because you can never really verify it until it's too late. Until a year or 2 years or 3 years has gone by and nothing has happened. But even then, you can tell yourself, well, how do I know that things would have happened if I took action? What you have to do is you have to trust that this idea of taking imperfect action, you keep hearing it everywhere because it's got value. That's what has to happen. You've got to know that the reason it's turned into a cliche is because it has value. The reason it's now a platitude is because it has value. The reason it got elevated to the ranks of being, sort of one of those old chestnuts about business is because it has value. And you have to ask yourself certain questions too. Hey, Karen, you got to ask yourself questions like, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, at the end of the decade, do I want to look back and know that I put in time on the field? Or do I want to look back and know that I spent time in the books? Everybody tracking that? So, hey, Joe, this is what you've got to think to yourself, right? For me, I think of Frank Sinatra, man. I did it my way. My way is the way of action. My way, well, more so now, after I sort of got called out at a group level in front of a bunch of really successful people. But the point is, action yields results. Learning never yields the results, right? Because learning without action is nothing. Okay? So you learn, but then you take action, then you get results. So when I say that you probably don't need to learn anything else, you just need to take action, think of it as just moving down the field. Let's use this field of play analogy. What we're talking about is whether you move down the field or whether you sit there strategizing. And you'll never get to the goal unless you move down the field, no matter what. Right? So get your ass off the sidelines, get off the whatever, get in the game and start taking action. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to learn from the mistakes. Allow yourself to adapt, improvise, and overcome. But do it while you're in motion. Do it while you're in motion. And your results will be better. You don't know how to close somebody once you get a lead? Guess what's going to teach you that better than anything else? Practice. Having conversations about closing. And then after you've done a bunch of them, what you do is you go, oh, maybe I need a little bit of guidance on sales. You go over and you read a little bit, learn a little bit on sales. Go back, act. Study sales over here forever and never have any calls. Your sales skills don't matter at all, right? Let's say you don't know about lead gen. Well, to start with, you got to practice your organic lead gen, unless you got lots and lots of money to learn the hard way about paid lead gen. You got to figure out what headlines people respond to. You got to figure out what parts of your personality people respond to, and you got to make offers. And there's the action. Action. The guy that's not as good a coach as you, but doing 10 times better than you, I guarantee you look at both of you throughout the day and you'll find that guy's taking more action than you. And I mean, there's just no way around it. Okay? All right. My call to action for you today is to get your ass in action. And if you want more of this, come and join my group. For God's sakes. So easy to find. It's called Manny Wolfe's Group. Now, I'm simultaneously broadcasting this on YouTube and Facebook. So if you're watching on YouTube, obviously you got to go to Facebook to find my group, Manny Wolfe's Group, where I share more of this stuff. I share my insights on money mindset, organic marketing strategy, personal branding, and whatever the hell else I want to talk about. But I promise you'll find value in there. So get over there. Get in the group. Take action right now. All right, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.